We are not of this world. We are Media Arts, Radio Zion. Welcome to Mars.
You're listening to Martial Art Masters of Texas with your host, the voice of Texas martial arts, Master Steve Pinder.
Well, hopefully things have straightened itself out, and the sound quality is good. We just had the modem changed over here, but it looks like I may need to change the router too. So if this gets a little jumpy, I apologize. We're just going to have to deal with it. So what I really wanted to talk about today is a subject that's really, really near and dear to my heart, and that is the whole passing down the knowledge and the legacy and everything that you know, and not letting your system get weaker or die out or just turn into what some of them have turned into today. And we talked last week. I talked about, when things started, when, first got brought over here in 57 by Atlee Chittum, and then, of course, later in the 60s. And I don't want to get too far back into that and repeat all that. But there was a quality of martial arts by the end of the 60s when you see people that had kicks, the caliber of people like Joe Louis, Alan Steen, David Moon. We saw Joe Louis with this amazing, crisp sidekick. And you just don't see that. Why don't we see that quality, that unbelievable speed, precision, picture perfect every single time? If anybody's listened to my show when it used to be radio back in the days, internet radio and podcasting back then, they heard me talk over and over again and repeat some of the things that I've heard and been taught, and people, the names of Grandmaster Larry Castor, Grandmaster Roy Kerbin, where it wasn't, practice makes perfect. No, perfect practice makes perfect. That technique, that style, that ability, has it faded? I mean, I can tell you that these people always believed, and this is what I believed all along, that if you can't make your student better than you, if you can't train your student to someday beat you, why are you teaching? What good are you? What's your purpose? Why are you even doing it? Because if you're not trying to make your student better than you, and your teacher didn't try to make you better than your teacher, you're doomed. Your system's doomed. Your system, everything, your everything you've done is doomed. I've heard to my face being told by other instructors from systems all over the place, and I've heard it many times. Well, I'll never be as good as my teacher. Why not? Well, I just won't be able to do what he can do. Well, is he teaching you how to do what he can do? Well, not really. Then it's a disservice. You like it or not. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Like it or not, if your teacher won't teach you to be better than him or is incapable of teaching you better than him, shouldn't be a teacher. They should not be teaching. Now, I can understand if they can't find the students. But if you're a good teacher, you're going to create a good student. That's just the honesty. I mean, that's the truth. If you can't find a good student on their own, then you can inspire them to be a great student. I mean, because let's face it, if you're in this to be mediocre, geez, anybody can be mediocre. I don't even want to be around you. That's just as infectious as any other disease. Okay? You need to inspire greatness. I want to teach my students how to beat me, because in turn make me better. Think about it. That's why in Texas they have open fight classes. They want to see different styles, They don't want to see the same stuff. Good friend of mine and a member of the Hall of Fame here on the board and the people that run it. We tell you, I mean, the way he put it was, you don't drink your bath water, because if you're just training amongst yourself, that's what you're doing. You got to get out there, see other styles, and work with them. So open fight class is probably the best thing that you can do for this. Because if you're hitting a guy over and over again and he can't figure out why you're hitting him, show him. This is why I'm hitting you over and over again with the same technique. This is what you're doing wrong. And if they correct it, it's made them better. And now it's harder for you to hit that person. So now in turn, you have to train better. That's how this works. Drop your friggin' egos, drop your attitudes. And this is the problem, and we're going to go back to the whole teacher-student thing. The ego of having your student pass you and become better than you. Oh, my God, can't have that. Then you're in it for the wrong reason. If your ego can't handle that, then you're not teaching. You're just in there showing off and trying to make money. Look at me. Look how great I am. Because let's face it, people like that think that if they're not showing their superiority, that people aren't going to come in their door. Oh, God, can't have that. How can you keep a karate student in your school if they think that you're not a good enough teacher to beat all your students? We all age out. We all get old. But the one thing we can do is pass on our legacy to make our students better than us. And this is going to turn into a rant, I'm sure. But think about this. You have your school. If you're that freaking worried that somehow you'll look bad, oh my God, I'm going to look bad in front of all these parents of my students. I never judge a teacher by how good they are. You can have amazing martial artists out there that can't teach worth a damn. I'm sorry, but that's kind of useless. That's useless. What good are you? You're only good for yourself, your own fame, your own whatever. Go out, do fights, show off. As far as the martial arts community, you're worthless. You don't like it? I don't care. I've never cared. If anybody has known me from doing this show years ago, I mean, God, I think I started Martial Arts Masters of Texas in 2008, maybe earlier. Might have been 2007. I don't know. 2008, I think. If you've been listening to me all these years, you know. I'm not going to mince words. If you can't teach martial arts, You're only good for yourself. You can go and get all your fame. You're not going to help anybody. You're worthless to the martial arts community. And I know that sounds bad. That's just the way it is. That old Steve, I can feel him coming back. Okay. So if your ego can't handle it, then it's not that you can't teach. It's mostly that you don't want to teach, because God forbid your students get a good hit on you. I still love it when my students got a good shot on me. Knock my head back or do whatever, and it'd be like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. I'm teaching these kids how to hit me. I remember back in my old school where I was a student and I was an assistant instructor, when my first karate school. I remember teaching this, not teaching, but just working with this brown belt. She was all of about 98 pounds, and I swear she's 98 pounds. And she was getting frustrated because she was trying to strike me and she wasn't doing anything. So I remember showing her, I'm like, look, you want to hurt a big guy like me? This is how you do it. I'm like, you might not have the power to punch into the solar plexus very well unless you can catch them off guard, and teach them how to turn their fist at an angle to get it right in there really good, I said, but if you come down on their upper chest, that's where a big guy like me is at their weakest. A good hammer fist or a good jump in the air and come down and palm strike the shit out of it. Excuse my language. He said, that's a good way. Anytime I've been knocked out really good, that's where it's happened. And she looked at me like, oh my God, you're teaching me how to hurt you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm teaching you how to hurt me. Think about this. 98-pound female. Are you not going to teach her how to hurt a big guy? If you're a big guy. Well, not everybody she confronts on the street or confronts her in the street is going to be a tiny little person like her. She's got to learn how to hurt a big guy. So I'd love nothing more than to teach these smaller people how to hurt a big guy, me. And then they knocked the wind out of me. I used to, oh my God, I'm saying this because I know some people are out there, if they listen to this, they're going to be like, well, no, he's full of shit, whatever. I don't care. It's a disservice. Okay? It's a disservice. If we're not doing this. I remember having another, because I love teaching females to hurt me. I mean, it's just, I know it sounds sick, but they were the weakest in the class when they first got there. And if I could teach them how to hurt a big guy, that was the best. I mean, I remember just standing there and letting them hit and teaching them how to hit properly, where to strike over and over again until they got it right. And when they got it right, Steve got the wind knocked out of me. Okay? And I would do the same thing with a lot of the smaller guys and just teach them. This is how you do it. This is how you fight a big guy. And I would also teach the bigger guys, this is how you fight a smaller guy. Okay? It's what you're supposed to do. I know we're gonna get off topic because I'm gonna go off on a bunch of rabbit trails. I've been hit in the head too many times. It's just the result of that, okay? And probably from teaching them how to hurt me, okay? I know it sounds sadistic and just masochistic, but it's just, look, if you're an instructor and you're not a little bit of that, then you're not a good instructor. I mean, look, you're an instructor. I mean, and I hear this all the time, though, if you can't take a hit, you're in the wrong place. And then you hear the instructors, well, you should teach them how not to get hit. Yeah, and teach them knitting class too, because in a fight, you're going to get hit. Okay? You're going to get hit. So, that being said, what's going to happen is if a teacher starts off and they're like, okay, they're here. And if that student goes, well, I'm never going to get there because he won't teach me to get to his level or her level. So that person's there. And if they become a teacher, maybe they're going to have the same mentality. They don't want anybody to pass them and get closer to their teacher. So they're going to keep their student here. And this is what's happened in a lot. And you can't say I'm wrong, because we've seen a bunch of the McDojos that are out there, the belt factories. How these people are wearing 6, 7, 8, 9 stripes on their belt, and they can't fight their way out of a paper bag. You know, and you could say, well, I'm a peaceful instructor. Oh, I love it when I hear that. I'm all about peace. I'm all about peace. Well, are you capable of violence? Well, I don't like violence. No. That's not what I asked. Are you capable of violence? Are you capable at any moment of absolute, extreme, deadly violence? And when they hesitate, you know they're not. They might come back later and say, well, yeah, no, you're not. No. If you're not capable of extreme violence, you're not peaceful, you're harmless. And we see that level, man, when this stuff hit its peak in the 70s, where it was still chewing nails for breakfast and pissing fire, okay? And that was at their peak. And in the 80s, it went down a little bit. Technique was good. It seemed like the fighting capability went down. I fought in the 80s. I saw a lot of people win in tournaments. It's just points fighting, light contact. I saw people, I got disqualified many times for excessive contact. I think I hit hard. Okay. But you see it come down. But I saw a lot of those people that could do really well in the points tournament. And then you'd see them in a fight on the street. And it happened 2 or 3 times where I actually saw a martial artist I saw in tournaments, black belts, get their clocks cleaned because they only knew how to do light contact. They didn't know how to hit hard, and they sure as hell didn't know how to take a hit. So, going down in level because, you know, I'll never be as good as my teacher. No one will ever. Look, that could be 2 faults. It could be your fault and it could be your teacher's fault. It could be both, one or the other or both. If your teacher's not a very good teacher, if they don't want to teach you, that's their fault. Okay, if you're not a very good student, it's partially your fault. Because a teacher should inspire you to want that greatness, to want that level that's above, way above average. Anybody can be mediocre. You can walk in the door, you're mediocre. So if that goes down, little by little, generation after generation, because I remember hearing that from someone early on saying, hey, I'll never be as good as my teacher. Well, then if that continues, that trend continues, you have systematically destroyed the strength of your system in 4 generations. It's gone. It's going to be worthless. But think about it. The average lifespan of a black belt who stays with it, the average, if they make it to black belt, okay, 1st degree black belt. After that, the average is about 3 to 5 years. Okay, and the few that go further. So I would consider a martial art generation 10 years. Okay, and think about that. 60s, the quality. I mean, personally, I think the end of the 60s, early 70s was the technique and quality of the martial arts. The artists, especially here in Texas, was probably at its best. It went down throughout the 70s. When you get into the 80s with the popularity of it, because I said as soon as money enters the picture and people started making their living off of having a martial arts school, because in the 60s there wasn't really anybody making a living off of it, and in the 70s is where it started. People started to make a living off of it. Okay, you want to keep the lights on, let's have a testing night. Okay, that's how it happens. Okay, and it's very hard to keep the integrity of your system together in your classroom and keep the lights on. I mean, let's face it, one of my good friends just had to close their school up in Minnesota because the rent was so outrageously high. Rather than water down the system and start handing out belts to keep the lights on, he chose to close his school. I used to have to deal with parents mad that their kids weren't getting tested or, didn't pass a test. I've had those, You're going to have that student that comes into your school that just wants a belt. And you weed those out. You don't give in just to keep them as a student. Because no matter how good you are as a teacher, sometimes it's just, it's just not going to work. And those are my failures. The kids that I wasn't able to inspire to be better. That's my failure, not theirs. And as soon as people start taking responsibility for their failures, then we're going to have this decline in your school. We're going to have that decline. So remember, and I'll say this before I want to say one more thing, a completely different, before we go here today, because it's going to be a short show today. I can drag this out, but it's what point? So remember this. If you're an instructor, the best thing that can happen, if you're a success as an instructor to a student, is to make that student better than you someday. And I'm not talking better than you because you'll be 70 years old, you just can't move like you could anymore, and finally, my student has surpassed me. No. I'm talking better than you in your prime. Because you can look back and go, okay, I made this mistake. I made this mistake. This held me back. This didn't hold me. This helped me. So if you can look back on your training and find out what hurt your growth and not do that, not pass that on, pass the good things on. If you do that, if you only teach what helped and you take out the stuff that you did that hurt your development as a martial artist, your next generation will be better than you at your best. If not, I don't know why the hell you're a teacher. If you're not going to do that, if you can't handle the fact that someday your student's going to be better than you, you have no reason to be a teacher. Get out. You're hurting martial arts. We have way too many senseis and not enough senpais and not enough karatekas. Okay? Way too many. Okay. On a different note, before I let you go, I got to tell you about something that happened tonight before the show. Decided to go out to a local place here just to grab a bite to eat before I came back and started the show. And I remember sitting in there, and I got my back against the wall in the corner of this place because I can't handle having my back to a door. It just doesn't work. It's not what's going to happen to me. So I watch this guy and this girl walk in, okay? Early 20s. Girl was maybe a little older. I say girl, a woman, okay? And the woman, you could tell she was pregnant. Turns out this woman was this guy's sister, and they were going in to get a bite to eat. These 4 other guys come walking in, and they're up at the counter. And then I see the female walk up by the crowd and go to the counter to get something. So I'm leaning over to my son who's sitting right next to me, and I go, "Watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. Keep your eyes open." And he would start talking. I'd say, no, shut up. Don't talk. Watch. Shh, just watch. And you could see the four guys looking at the female, and they started talking, and I said, ooh, something going to happen. Here we go. And she looked up at them, noticed they were talking about her. She just went back to her business. And those guys went back talking, and they're all in a little huddle, and I'm like, oh boy. And I go to my son, I go, this is about to get real crazy. I said, it's just going to take a little spark. I said, and I can see the posturing happened already. So she goes back and she sits down with her brother, and they start talking. So the four guys are now looking over there, and they knew she was going to tell him what was going on. So he turns and looks at them and just stares at him. And that's when the comment happened. One of the four guys, they're brave. They got four people, sticking the chest out. We're brave. We got four people. They start saying something, and then he fires back. He's protecting his sister, her honor, whatever. It's what it is. It's going down. It's going down. And I'm watching this, and my son's like, should I record this? And I lean over and I go, World Star, and I'm like, no, don't. So he had started to record. He turned it off. And I'm laughing. So he's watching, my son's watching, and I'm watching. And then it gets louder and louder. Now all four of them are posturing, because they're tough. They're four guys against one guy that all four of them were bigger than. This guy was tiny guy. So all four of them are feeling pretty brave. There's a good 35 feet between them. The bravery of being out of range. It's just, it happens. The bravery of numbers. Because I guarantee you, if there was four guys on this side and four guys on that, it wouldn't have been anything like that. So they're getting louder, and of course, the one guy stands up, and now his sister gets up and trying to put her hand up to stop him, and he's like, "Come on, let's go out." So one guy starts to run forward, and about halfway there, he realizes he's alone. The other three guys stayed behind. So he looks behind him almost like to say, hey, come on, guys. So brave. And so the one guy sees the other three guys walking up, and the one guy, he takes a step forward. Now, she is trying to get between them both, and they got within 4 feet of each other. And here's this pregnant woman in between them, putting their hands up, and she's trying to stop them from swinging. And so they back off, and the four guys walk back over. And I'm like, whoo, one scrawny guy and a pregnant woman stopped four big old tough guys. Yeah. They're still going at it. Oh, come on, let's go outside. Come on. And I'm thinking to myself, this kid, and I say kid, he's in his 20s, If he goes outside, he's about to get, dogpiled on. There's no such thing as a fair fight, guys. This is why I tell people, be careful of the amount of jiu-jitsu you want to do in the street. Because if this kid was some kind of Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, it's effective martial art, one-on-one. He tried to take one of those guys to the ground. It would have been a dog pile. It just wasn't going to happen. Let's be honest. Okay, that's the facts. Okay, so I'm glad, they separated. So I looked up at my wife, and I'm like, I'm not going to let some pregnant woman get, pushed aside, hit, or hurt, because she's trying to stop a fight. I look at it, I go, you understand that if this goes down and gets physical, I have to go over there. You understand? And she's like, yep. Okay. It's going to happen. Okay. And so she did the smart thing and called the police. So they backed off. They come, running up one more time. And she got between them again. And she's like, look, the cops are coming. So now they're outside. He stayed inside after saying how he was going to go outside with them. Smart kid. So they're outside and they're banging on the windows to this place saying, come on out. You can hear them. One of them walked around and went in the other door saying, oh, I thought you were coming outside. And she's telling him, look, you can be whatever you're being. And, she used some choice words. And she goes, but cops coming. If you want to get arrested, go for it. So they're outside now. They're on their phone. And they'd been on their phone since they got outside. What they're doing is trying to call friends over. Because, there's only 4 of them. And he is, one guy. And they might need some backup. That's I've seen this happen before. I had an altercation at a Walmart. And this one guy who had called me out to go outside was on that damn phone making some phone calls trying to get some people to help his sorry ass. Okay? So, yeah. This is I'm watching this and the cops got there and they're taking all their statements. And I thought for a second, are they going to come and ask me for a statement? Because I saw the whole thing happen. I said, I hope they don't ask me for a statement because I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep a straight face to the whole thing because I'm going to be laughing just as much as I'm laughing with you guys right now telling you about this situation. But damn. Look, and I told my son, and I told him while this whole thing was going on, I said, ain't nothing going to happen unless it's the 4 of them onto the 1 of him. Not one of those 4 guys is going to go after him by themselves. That's too risky. That's not how cowards work. And this one guy was just trying to protect his sister. He was ready to go to battle. He was ready to go to war to hold them off. Because when they finally went outside, he wasn't going to follow them. The guy's got half a brain. He was just trying to get them away from his sister. Okay? And I tried, and I said, this is a really good lesson I can tell my son. And I could tell him, say, hey, see what's going on here? You see those 3 guys? All this. Or those 4 guys, I said, all this. They had to sit there and smack talk, hoping that this guy would back down so they could look all big and tough. Didn't happen. There wasn't no chance that any one of them was going to start any shit with and possibly hurt her. Wasn't going to happen. And he was willing to he was going to deal with it. No matter what, it wasn't going to happen. It was going to happen over his dead body. Okay? You remember, the one that stays silent, that doesn't talk shit in that situation, that's the one you have to be careful with. Because the one that talks shit is usually the one that can't fight. And I mean, 4 people didn't want to do anything right there. Think about it. Okay. I did my rant. I added another 10 minutes just on that story. Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed this. We actually had a couple of viewers in the live stream, not like last time. We didn't get out any notification, so we had nobody in the live stream. So maybe one later, but anyway, we're going to continue to do this on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hey, you guys, if you've seen on the screen right below me here, our email address has changed. This is our permanent email, TXMAHOF, Texas Martial Arts Hall of Fame, at myyahoo.com. You guys, questions, comments? You got any show topics you want me to discuss? Or maybe you want to come on the show and be a guest. I have the capability to get people on here, and the screen that's over to the left side of the screen, well, that would be where your face is going if you want to be on the show, okay? If you have a school in Texas, okay, and this is mostly for Texas martial artists. If you have a school in Texas and you want us to talk about your school, how about just make a 30-second video describing your school? 30-second, talk about your school, and I'll play it on the stream. So if you want to do that, if you want to talk about your school, advertise your school, ain't going to cost you anything. Send me a 15, 30-second video, whatever. Just tell us about your school, tell us where it is and what you teach, and I'll put it up on here. This is all about keeping the excellence in the tradition of Texas martial artists, and this is all about celebrating the history of Texas martial arts here at the Texas Martial Arts Hall of Fame, everybody. As always, I'm your host, Steve Pender. Till next time, everyone, be strong.